Okay, so moving on with our next lesson here, 8.3, dynamic analysis of two variable data. We're going to be looking at residuals today, and we can see the definition for residuals right here. So basically, residuals are the difference between the observed value of the dependent variable and the predicted value. Okay, that's what we refer to as the residual. Each data point has one residual. Okay, so basically, how do we calculate the number value for our residual? You can see it here in green, or in the green bubble, I guess. Residual is equal to the observed value minus the predicted value. So the observed value is the actual data point itself, right? The Y value that you have in your table or in your data, however it's presented. And from that value, you subtract the predicted value. So the predicted value is the Y value that you would get using the line of best fit. So if you recall last lesson, we came up with our formula for the line of best fit, and then we could plug in X values to predict the corresponding Y values. So this predicted value then is when we use the line of best fit to predict the value, and the observed value is the actual value. So the difference between the two is what we refer to as a residual. Okay. A residual plot, so basically a residual graph, shows the value of each residual graphically as the vertical distance from a horizontal axis. So basically it is graphically showing us how far each point is from the line of best fit. Okay, and if we look below here, we have our scatter plot basically here, right? So you see all the points plotted, and then you see the dotted line, which would represent our line of best fit. Okay, on the right side, we have our residual plot. So all of the points, so all of these points now have been transformed over to our residual plot, and they are plotted based on how far they are from the line of best fit over here on the left. Right, so for example, you see these ones, 3 points in yellow are probably, if not not the furthest out of all of them, but pretty far from the line of best fit, right? 1, 2, and 3. And you can see here, those 3 points are represented in our residual plot, and you can see that they are, quite a bit of distance from the horizontal. So that's showing us that, these 3 points correspond to these 3 points. Okay, so remember, the distance from the line of best fit is what is being shown on the residual plot. Okay, same here. You can see these 2 points are below the line of best fit. And it's hard to tell exact numbers, but that distance there, and then so the second point in yellow, that distance there is what's basically being represented by these 2 yellow points here on the residual plot. Okay, so all of the ones that are above the line of best fit would be above our green horizontal here, and all of these points below the line of best fit would be represented by these points below the green horizontal. How far below or above this green horizontal depends on how far above or below the points are from the line of best fit. Okay, so regular scatter plot here on the left side, and then we see it transformed into our residual plot on the right side. Okay. Both the sum and the mean of the residuals are equal to 0. Okay, so that should hopefully make sense. So if we added all the residuals together, took all of these positive ones, and then added all these negative ones, we'd get a sum of 0. And then the mean would obviously be 0, because if the sum is 0, 0 divided by any number would be 0. Okay, so the sum and the mean of the residuals are equal to 0. Moving on to the next part here. When we see, so these are residual plots we see here, 1, 2, and 3. And we can see the first one is in a random pattern, meaning there's really no pattern here. All of our points are scattered all over the place. And then you can see the one in the middle, and then the one on the right, we can see a pattern, right? So this one here we just refer to as our U-shaped pattern, and this one here is our inverted or upside down U. And why is it important to look to see whether we have a pattern or not? It's explained down here. So it says the first plot shows a random pattern indicating a good fit for a linear model. Okay, so When you see residual plots, just looking at them, like giving it the eyeball test, if it's a random pattern, it's going to tell us that it is a better fit for a linear model. If you see a pattern, so whether it be a U-shaped pattern like this or an inverted U-shaped pattern like that, that tells us that it's a better fit for a non-linear model. Okay, so that's pretty much what we're illustrating here. Random pattern equals good fit for linear model. Sorry, yes, random pattern equals good fit for linear model. Non-random pattern equals a good fit or a better fit for a non-linear model. Okay, so looking at a couple of examples here, is the model a good fit? Look at this one here again, just by taking a quick look at it, we can see it is random. There's no U pattern or inverted U pattern, so yes, the points are random. And the other thing we want to look at to see if it's a good fit for a linear model is, do we have an equal number of points above and below? And again, you don't have to count each point here, but giving it the eyeball test, you can see, generally speaking, there's probably an equal number or close to an equal number of points above as there are below. Okay, so those two things there, look for random and look for an equal number of points above and below. If those two criteria are met, then yes, it's a good fit for a linear model. And then the second one here, we can see here, is this a good fit for a linear model? And no, because as you can see, again, just a quick eyeball test here, you can look at it and you can see that we have a U shape. So because there's a pattern, then we say no, it's not a good fit for a linear model. Okay, and that's really it. There's nothing, I guess, overly scientific about that. So that's how you can tell, looking at a residual plot, whether your data is a good fit for a linear model or if it's a better fit for a non-linear model. Okay, then we see here our next slide. Why do we need R values? Okay, so R value, right, was a calculation that relied on aggregating the data. So when we say aggregating the data, we mean putting it all together, right? So if you remember from the previous lesson, like you're doing the sum of all the x's or the sum of all the y's. So you're putting all the data together. So the R value relies on aggregating the data. So if certain values were systemically lower or higher than the predicted values, only a residual analysis would reveal the flaw in the linear model. Okay, so what we mean by that is if there are points in your data set that are systemically, like, so basically throughout your data set, there are points that are lower or higher than the predicted values, the only way we'd be able to see that and see that there's a flaw in the linear model would be to do a residual analysis, right? And again, if I go back up here to our residual plot, this here shows us how far our points are from the line of best fit. So by looking at a residual plot, we can tell then if there's a flaw in the linear model. If our points are really far, or there's a number of points that are really far from this horizontal here, then it's going to tell us that there's a flaw in our linear model. If the points are generally closer to this axis here, the horizontal axis, then we're probably better off in terms of a linear model. And then, like I said, here is your main way of telling you do the residual plot. If you have the random pattern, good for a linear model, and if you have a non-random pattern, then you have something that's better suited to a non-linear model. Okay, and I think, actually no, sorry, we have an example here. So using the same data we have from the previous lesson, where we had the age of the employee in years and then their corresponding annual income. If we had to draw a residual plot, how would we do that? We would need to use our line of best fit, right? So we have our line of best fit. The formula is right there. Y equals 1.115x minus 0.86. And then basically we need to see what the difference is between what the line of best fit would predict and the actual data point over here in terms of income. Okay, so if I scroll down a little bit here, find the residual value for the first data point. So the first data point, our age is 33, our x value is 33, and the actual value would be 33,000. Okay, what is the predicted value? Well, then we plug in the age of 33 for x, and it tells us the line of best fit would tell us the predicted value of 37.09. Okay, so there's the predicted value. What was the actual value? 33. So what's the difference between the two? We take the actual value of 33 down here and we subtract the predicted value of 37.09, and it tells us then that the difference is negative 4.09, right? So we're 4.09 below the predicted, sorry, the actual value was 4.09 below the actual value. Okay, and then we can see on our graph here, we have our horizontal axis here at the 0, and then at an x value of 33, we are 4.09 right there below that horizontal. Okay, we can do the second point. So at an age of 25 years, the actual point is 31. The predicted value, we put in 25 into our formula for our line of best fit, and it gives us 27.8. So we do actual of 31 minus predicted of 27.89, and that gives us 3.11. So again, to plot that, we go to the age of 25, and then we'd be about just a little bit above 3 over this horizontal axis. So you can see this point is just a little bit above 3. Okay, so you can do that for all of these actual values, right? So compare the actual to the predicted, and then get your residuals, and then you can plot each of those points over here on your residual plot. Okay, so each of these points then, so if I were to go to 54, right, the residual is negative 1.24. So at 54, I am negative 1.24. There's my point. Okay, so you can do that for, like I said, for all of these, and then plot the residuals over on your residual plot. Okay. We won't worry about the calculator bit for this lesson. The last bit is about hidden variables. And it says here, read example 3 on page 411, 412 for a hidden variable example. If you do look at that example, what it talks about is absenteeism for professionals. Like, so basically, how much time are they missing from work? And it gives data from 1990 to 2012. And what we see in that data is for female absences, the numbers are relatively quite high from 1990 to 96. And then all of a sudden, from after 1996, the numbers drop off quite a bit. And based on just looking at the data, we have no idea why that's the case. Then, as you do a little bit of further digging, there's a point, a note in the data that says up until 1996, maternity leave was included in the data for absenteeism, and then after 1996, it wasn't included. So in this case, the hidden variable would be the fact that maternity leave was included until 1996, which obviously put the numbers for female absenteeism a lot higher. When all of a sudden it wasn't included after 1996, we saw a drop-off in the data. So if we didn't know about that hidden variable, we would just see basically what would look like two different sets of data. You'd see data that was showing high absenteeism or higher absenteeism rates for females up until 1996, and then all of a sudden 97 onwards, you see a big drop-off in the absenteeism rate. So it wouldn't make any sense. You would just see fragmented data, right? And that's what it says here. It can result in a false correlation or fragmented trends. Okay, so in this example in the textbook, we realize why we have what looks like fragmented data is because we are told that up until 96, maternity leave was included, and then after 96, maternity leave was not included, and that explains why the absenteeism rate for females decreased. Okay, so we'll leave it there. If you have any questions, as always, please feel free to email. Okay, thanks.